What's the strangest way you discovered your partner was cheating on you? I was working a part-time job whilst finishing up my bachelor's degree when I met my ex-boyfriend. We were living outside of Washington, D.C., and he'd been a frequent visitor in my store over the past year. I recognized him and his friends immediately and we started chatting. As I was away one weekend visiting family, I received a DM to my Instagram account from one of his friends asking me out. But his friend wasn't asking me out for himself, it was for Mike. I explained that I wouldn't go out with a guy if he couldn't even ask me out himself, so he wound up coming in the next week and asking me himself. He was shy and nervous, which I found endearing. I gave him my number and told him we'd set up some plans. I had just gotten out of a really long, toxic relationship, so I had really high hopes for him. He treated me right, surprised me with nice deeds and words, and really grew to become one of my best friends. He seemed like a good guy. Or so I thought. Over the next few weeks, we texted a lot. I hung out with him and his friends and everything was going smoothly. He was in the army but in the area for the long term, so he had a great job, awesome friends, loved to work, and we liked the same music and so on. So one night, I jokingly asked him, "Are you even real? You seem too good to be true." That's when he responded, "I know that already because I am." I froze. What did he mean? He proceeded to tell me that he actually had a wife, and a son, who was 3. I was beyond confused. Why would his friends set me up with someone who was married? Mike had been coming into my store and flirting with me for over a year at this point. He then went on to explain that he was in the process of getting a divorce. He'd signed papers. He loved his kid and wanted to support him, but she cheated on him with someone he had bad blood with while he was deployed, and he wanted nothing to do with her anymore. He didn't love her anymore and she didn't accept him for who he was. But I did. He was so emotional, and it felt like he was really opening up to me, so I believed him. I'd been cheated on too, and I could relate. But despite this, it still really bothered me that he kept it a secret for those weeks. He said it was just because he didn't want to scare me off, and he really liked me. I believed him. I should have broken up with him then and there. 4 months passed for which he and I were inseparable. Naively, I didn't even doubt his loyalty at this point. But one day, I was scrolling on social media when a video came up of a beautiful woman who seemed to be a few years older than me. She was talking about the struggles of being an army wife with a husband who was constantly traveling for work. Naturally, I thought nothing of it until I saw her young son run into the frame of the footage. That's when everything clicked. I recognized his face immediately as the same boy in the wallet of my supposedly loyal boyfriend. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I easily found her Instagram and saw her profile. There I was greeted with many pictures of her, my boyfriend, and their son. I was gutted. That night, he and I were planning on going to the gym together, so on the drive there I decided to confront him. It didn't go well. He got extremely angry and I was yelling and crying. He pulled over to the side of the road and demanded I get out of the car. He was a large man and at this point, I was quite scared by his rage, so after some retaliation, I was forced to oblige. Luckily a friend was able to pick me up safely and take me to their house for a while. I wanted to have another conversation with him once we had both calmed down to try and understand the situation better. In hindsight, part of me wished I'd just left it at that. When he finally returned my calls, his first words were, "The time we spent together was a mistake. You never meant anything to me." He went on to tell me that he got home, saw his son, saw her, and realized he couldn't throw 10 years out the window. I could never compare to her. He just felt lost and honestly never cared about me. He said that he was calling me for her to have closure, not because he cared to actually call me. After that, he blocked me on everything. It was one of the worst heartbreaks I've ever experienced, as the shock of his second life was something I just couldn't comprehend. But, ironically, in those months afterward I became close with a friend of his who'd stayed in my area. After several years, we fell in love and he's now my husband. Neither of us has spoken to my ex since everything blew up, but I guess every cloud really does have a silver lining.